Welcome to the Tilted Halo, the place for women of faith and leadership who know that we're not perfect, yet boldly lead anyway. Whether you serve in ministry, business, or life, this show is here to encourage you, remind you that you're not alone, and help you lead with confidence, gratitude, and God's grace. Now, let's get started. Welcome to another episode of the Tilted Halo. And this is a show for women of faith in ministry or people of faith in ministry who know perfectly well that we are not quite perfect. And that's why the halo is kind of askew at times. And I have someone I call a friend and mentor and coach here with me today, Matt Gill. Matt is, well, he worked with some top-notch people, worked at Disney at one point and worked for Disney at one point and has been on stages across the globe talking to hundreds of thousands of people, or at least 100,000, and personal development sphere. And then, what was it, maybe 10 years ago? I don't know exactly how long, but got to meet Tiffany Largy from known in couple of different companies, but especially her company, Do the Damn Thing, and now the Story Agency as well. And now Matt is working with her and is, I'm not sure your exact title, production manager, something to that effect of the Story Agency.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
I've worked with the company to produce the first approximately 50 episodes of the Tilted Halo when it was strictly audio and or mostly audio. There are videos with that too.
Yes, ma'am.
And for publishing my new book, which you can see a photo of the cover behind me. So, but it is a delight to talk with you, Matt, and to have you here on the Tilted Halo, because you're part of the creation of this thing in the first place. So welcome.
Amen. Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you so much. It's amazing to watch your growth and your elevation of sharing your journey and empowering women, especially women that are in ministry and in leadership roles and the challenges that you faced. I feel like I have a backdoor pass to some of your stories, and
Yes, you do.
yes, and so thank you for having me.
Well, it's always fun to talk with you and to be with you too, but to talk with you even in this kind of a setting, and tell tell the people some more of your story, because I know there's a very rich and powerful story there.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. You know, it's really interesting that I have impacted over 40 million people worldwide. I've been on hundreds of
Mm,
stages teaching people emotional literacy, emotional healthiness, learning how to put words to your feelings, how to take accountability for choices that you're making, how to learn what it means to make integrity based decisions. And
mm,
I have been around the world and on stages, but even in those moments, I wasn't owning the truth of my story. I
mm,
wasn't owning all of my story. I was one of those people that would tell the filtered version of my story. I would look
mhm,
at the audience and say, the audience can handle this, or the audience would approve of this, is actually probably a better word. They would
mhm,
approve of this story, this piece of me. It wasn't until I began to work with Tiffany at Do the Damn Thing that I learned the and recognized and owned the truth of my story. You see, for many years, I was the person who would do things for other people. I would put myself last. I would get frustrated because I wasn't doing the goals and I wasn't achieving the things that I wanted because I was pushing everybody else's dreams and goals first.
I'm I'm going to stop you right there, because that is something I have noticed, especially for women.
Mhm.
We're we're raised to be the caregiver and take care of everybody else first.
Yes.
And but even perhaps more so for people in ministry, men as well as women, but women, to, we do it for others.
Yes.
We do it to uh, do the work that we're supposed to be doing.
You're in
But
service. Yep.
yes, we're in service, but it's it's not totally us,
Hmm.
because like you said, filtering a lot of that as to what we think is going to be acceptable, and how people might receive that, and how that could, we think, cloud the rest of the message,
You know,
and
it's interesting that
especially a
you say.
spiritual message. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because one of the things that I think that we do and why we filter is because we're managing other people's insecurities and we're managing their judgments,
Hmm. Especially the judgments. Yeah.
especially the judgments. And the sad part is that some of the biggest judgments comes within our church environments. You know,
Definitely.
and
Yeah.
so we want to be of service. We have the person who's always going to say yes to being the first to unlock the church and the last one to leave, but they're also the one that doesn't get the recognition and the acknowledgement and the fact of somebody just saying, "Hey, I see you," and the
Yeah.
appreciation. And so we show up in a filtered version because we want to be the clean version. We want to be the put together version. We want to
Mm-hmm.
look like everything is good, but really truly inside we're hurting, we're
Mm-hmm.
frustrated, we're feeling lonely, we're angry at some of the things that are happening in the relationships that we're in our lives, but we
Yeah.
in one of the places that we should feel the safest, we don't always feel that way.
Yep. And I know I felt basically all of those things while serving in ministry.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's yeah, you're there supposed to be for everybody else,
Right.
and we keep pouring out and pouring out and pouring out, and then at some point there's nothing left.
There's nothing left.
And you know, there's so many people who after a service may say, "Good sermon, pastor." Yeah, what in the world does that mean? It's,
Hmm.
very generic comment, and it could mean that they totally agreed with something a little bit controversial or whatever, but or just saying something nice as a platitude, and we
Hmm.
have no idea what really touched people,
Right.
and there's no way for that to fill us.
Hmm.
So, you're so right. So please continue with your story.
So it wasn't when I hired Tiffany, she began to show me the truth of my story. I come from a very machismo, meaning very manly family. I come in from the Latin culture, which the men are very strong, they're very proud. Um, and I, growing up, always knew that I felt different. I
Mm-hmm.
knew that there was something that was unique about me. I knew that there was something that other people saw that I wasn't able to identify. I did not know what it meant to be gay.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I felt different. I knew
Mm-hmm.
that I wasn't the best sports player, but I sure could sing a song. I knew that I wasn't the best at playing football or doing some of the other things that the boys were doing, but I knew that I loved to help. I loved production. I loved plays. I loved drama. I loved all of these things. And somehow, what I liked and what felt good and natural to me all of a sudden became wrong or different from everybody else.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
I did not identify what that was because I was young. I had no idea. Now I grew
Right.
up. I went to a private Christian school
Mm-hmm.
from preschool all the way up through sixth grade, and
Uh-huh.
many of my great memories come from being in church. I was
Mm-hmm.
always the one that was on Sunday services, that was singing up there with the choir. I was in the church plays. I was in the
Mm-hmm.
youth group. I was leading the Pledge of Allegiance every morning in the school as we
Okay.
would start.
Yeah.
So I've always been one who enjoyed being in front of people and feeling connections with people. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
I understand that now, but as a child, I didn't understand that. But I just knew that I like that. I began my faith with God in church.
Mm-hmm.
Some of my greatest memories come from some of the teachers that I had. Now, one of my worst memories is also with my third grade teacher,
Ah,
who told me I was one of her worst students because I wasn't very good in math, and I'm still not very good in math. But I remember her, and I remember her negative comment pushing me harder to try to do better.
ah.
Um,
And did it work?
well, I'm
Those
horrible.
negative.
It didn't because I walk around with a calculator and a calculator in my phone.
Well, when I was growing up, I didn't have those things. So,
Right. It was
but
funny
anyway.
because she used to, her name was Mrs. Sharn. And she used to tell me, she says, you need to learn math because when you grow up, you're not going to have a calculator in your pocket. And I wish that I could go back to her and be like, yes, I do.
Yes, we do. We all do these days, as long as we have a cell phone. But what I'm asking is, I mean, did those negative comments really help to motivate you
They, I think they did in
in
the
a
time.
healthy way?
Yes, yes. I think I was able to turn it into that.
Ah, okay.
I don't know what her intentions were at the time of
Hmm.
telling me that. I don't think I was one of her favorite students.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't know. I just remember the comment, and I remember how I felt in the moment. Our words are very powerful.
Yes, yes,
Our
and that's kind of why I'm asking because those negative comments can have the opposite effect
mhm,
and can make students and children more resistant and say, my teacher told me I'm bad at math, so therefore I will never be good at math, and therefore why even try?
right. She
And we need to
definitely
be
dis
careful.
Yeah, she definitely discouraged me at the time. I think as I've
Hmm.
gotten older and I've done self work and really try to reframe part of my stories,
Hmm.
I have been able to go through and to make my own changes so that way
Yeah,
it becomes a motivator.
and
But
that's good. Yeah.
yeah, but as a child, I remember feeling hurt. I remember feeling like I was a failure. I remember
Hmm.
feeling like I was going to get in trouble. Um, and
Maybe with mom and dad. Yeah.
yes, for sure, for sure.
Hmm.
And so I remember growing up just feeling different and not knowing what that was. As I grew older and I learned, the other part was being in church and being
Hmm.
gay. Obviously,
Hmm.
the Bible teaches that that is wrong and that I'm going to hell. And so I always felt like as I got older and understood a little bit more of this thing called being gay and how people perceive it,
Hmm.
it was wrong. And therefore I was wrong. And therefore I was not loved.
Not
Um,
loved or not lovable.
yes, yes.
Okay.
And that I needed to keep it a secret.
Hmm.
I needed to hide. I needed to not share that part of me. So it was acceptable for me to be the outgoing personality on stage,
Hmm.
but this piece of me I had to hold back because then if I showed other people, people in the church, God would not love me, my family would not love me. And so I went many years, probably until I was in my late teens, did I begin to really say, huh, maybe I am gay. Because again,
Hmm.
to me, it was never a sexual thing. There was never anything that brought in like that element. It just always felt different, and I realized that my attractions and were different. My and it's interesting because I use the word attraction, but it's almost like when you have a crush on
Hmm.
somebody,
Hmm.
it's that type of feeling. It's not a sexual feeling, and I believe that too many times that we focus, especially in the gay, when we talk about gay, we think about the sex part. That was not even
Hmm.
in fifth grade. Had no idea. Like that was
Hmm.
never anything. But I know that in fifth grade, I had a crush on. one of the guys that was there. And when I say
Mm.
crush, it just meant that I liked being around him. Like,
Ah.
we didn't do anything, we didn't have like, but just this draw to him.
Mm.
And again, in fifth grade, I don't even know what that is. I have no
Yeah.
recollection, especially growing up in a Christian home. Like, I wasn't exposed to anything. So I had to learn as I got older to really, one, love myself first and foremost. When we think about being in ministry, we have to be in love and love ourselves, because when we love ourselves, we're more connected with God. You know?
Yeah. There's that saying from scripture, and there's a version of it found really, I've found out, in virtually every tradition that's ever been. Love your neighbor as yourself.
Yes.
And so often we're pouring out to love the neighbor, but it gets complicated when we can't love ourselves. And
Mm-hmm.
it's never truly love if we can't accept all of who we are,
Right.
including the tilted halo parts.
Mm-hmm. All of it, the good, the bad,
Yeah,
and
all
the
of it.
ugly. Yes. And I think it was when Tiffany told me, when she said, Matt, how many people know that you're gay? It was in a private VIP day. And I said, I said, I've lived my life where if somebody asked, I would tell them. But I've never from a stage ever said that I was gay. And she required me, in order to continue on with the coaching that we were doing. She
Mm-hmm.
said, I can't have you out in the world teaching people how to love themselves, teaching people how to grow and get stronger, but yet you're not showing up 100% you. And she said, if you don't go and tell your story publicly, I am not going to coach you. It
Mm-hmm.
was one of those moments where I had to make a decision. Am I going to
Yeah.
share my truth, or am I going to
Mm-hmm.
continue to play small? March
Yeah.
1st, 2020 at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time was the moment that I gave myself freedom. I got my
Ah.
phone, I went onto Facebook, and I began to just tell my story. And here's the thing about our story, and for all the women that are listening, especially for women who have so many pieces of their story that they never tell.
Mm-hmm.
I look at my mom. I've had some great conversations since I came out publicly, and I share my story. My family's very private. Um, they everything. I grew up in the age of what happens in the home stays in the home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um, and there's a lot of pieces of my mom's story that I didn't know. The
Mm.
beautiful thing about me coming out and telling my story more often is it's given my mom courage to
Wow.
begin to tell me pieces of her story
Wow.
in a place of no judgment,
Mm-hmm.
in no repercussions, and expressing unconditional love through the story.
Mm.
And I have had several conversations where my mom has told me moments of her being a young teen, and the things that she was facing, and the things that were happening within her own home, and how she felt.
Wow.
And I know many women, especially mothers,
Mm-hmm.
um, they have huge stories and things that they will never tell. Moments that they're
Yeah.
crying in the bathroom, trying to hold it
Mm-hmm.
together. Moments where
Mm-hmm.
they're sitting in their car trying to muster up the courage and put it all together before they step into the house to feed the kids, to say hi to their spouse, to carry on.
Mm-hmm.
Your story is one of the greatest assets that you have. I've learned
Yeah.
so much from my mom beginning to tell me her stories. It
Mm.
makes me understand my mother more,
Yeah.
and I'm able to
Totally.
connect more with my mom because I know her
Mm-hmm.
story.
Mm-hmm.
When we think about being in ministry, or even in our own home, the moment that you can share your truth is the moment that you can make deeper connections with the people that you want to serve, or the people that you want to love.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have found, even before I shared all of my story, um, more recently, but the times where I shared some more personal pieces appropriately, um, maybe in a sermon,
Mm-hmm.
maybe when I'm visiting someone, it built connections.
Mm-hmm.
People could understand that, oh, I haven't lived this charmed life and, nothing ever touches me type thing, which is what we can project if we don't let people know
Right.
what's going on. And no, we don't have to tell every little incident and things like that. But there are those moments that are really impactful
Mm-hmm.
for us
Yes.
and that are part of the core of who we are
Mm-hmm.
because of the impact they've had. And like you telling your story and coming out, um, in any culture, that takes a lot of courage
Mm-hmm.
to do that.
You know, it,
And
oh, go ahead.
well, I was going to say, you talk about that as your Freedom Day,
Yes.
and um, a lot of people don't realize the freedom that comes with sharing some of those things that we keep buried.
It's also the day that I really felt like most connected to God.
Hmm.
It was the day that
That's interesting.
it was also the day that I felt like I was okay in His presence.
Hmm.
The moment that I knew that the secret was out to me, that's the way it was, like the secret
Hmm.
is out and I didn't have to
Hmm.
hide anymore. But I really felt like, one, I was praying before I did it. So at 2:45 p.m., I was pacing back and forth. Now, mind you, remember 2020 was when we began to go into
COVID.
COVID, yeah.
Hmm.
And so I was by myself. My brother and family was about a half a mile down the street where they lived,
Hmm.
but I couldn't go to them because at that time we just started being in our isolation and
Hmm.
in our little bubbles and began that journey.
Right.
And so I didn't have anybody around, but I kept pacing the floor and I'm like, am I going to do this? Am I going to do this? Am I really going to do this? I had
Yeah.
told a couple people of what I was going to do because in true Tiffany style, she not only made me go and do that, she made me make an announcement before that said, join me March 1st, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, because I have a huge announcement.
Mm.
So I had a bunch of people that were waiting for this live, that whatever this announcement was.
Yeah.
When I turned on the camera, I had like 25 people, and I thought, okay,
Hmm.
this is manageable. I can do this. But
Hmm.
as I began to tell my story and the feed came out, I went from 25 to 45 to 75 to 140 to
Huh.
260. And all of a sudden, as I'm getting into my story and getting into the ugly cry, I'm looking and I'm almost at 700 people that are watching this
Oh,
Facebook Live.
wow.
You talk about feeling naked in front of people, telling your story. It was
Yeah.
it was probably one of the most scariest moments, but it was also the moment when I had to surrender. My prayer
Hmm.
before, and it's always my prayer before I speak, before I teach, before I even have conversations with people that I know are going to go deep or be intense. My prayer is always, God, clear my mind and prepare my heart and use me as your
Mm.
vessel.
Mm.
Clear my mind, prepare my
Good.
heart, and use
Yeah.
me as your vessel.
Hmm.
I realize that the devil, the darkness, all lives up here and can operate up here. He can attack my mind. He can
Right.
turn up the volume of that negative self-talk. He can bring back
Yeah.
right. He can bring back
Yeah.
all the memories
Oh,
of the things that
yeah.
didn't work, and he can
Right.
operate up here. He can manipulate what happens up here, but he cannot
Right.
manipulate what happens in my heart. And so I
Mm.
ask God, please clear my mind, get this clear, prepare my heart, and use me as your vessel. And
It's a
in that
beautiful way
moment,
to express that. Yeah.
amen. And in that moment, as I shared my story, it wasn't until after when I shut the camera off and I cried.
Mm.
I let out the biggest wail because it was
Mm.
like years worth of holding this secret, years worth of pain, years worth of feeling lonely, years worth of feeling
Wow.
judged, years worth of feeling not enough. All of a sudden, the blocks and the walls and everything that was blocking from before was gone. It was down.
Mm.
And now I felt a true connection to God. I felt a true connection to myself because I was living in truth.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
always remember the saying, the truth will set you free.
Yeah.
And for the first time, I really felt that statement.
Wow. And what kinds of reactions did you get from people?
I got everything that you would expect.
Okay.
I had the family members who were like, God, the Bible says this, and you're doing this, and we can't be like. I lost family members. I have family that doesn't talk to me. I
Hmm.
have uh, some people, because I come from a very big world. I used to travel and with motivating the masses, and Lisa Nichols, who's a very large motivational speaker, teaches a lot of
Hmm.
speaking, and um, I have a big following from that community, and I was a very
Hmm.
public figure. Um, and so I lost people that were from that world as well,
Really?
which is
Mm.
very interesting because we teach acceptance and we teach love, um,
Right.
and then there were some friends that were saying that I was doing too much, I was talking too much. Matt, you shouldn't
Mm.
share that story. Um,
Ah.
and so I stepped away from those people who were trying because I was trying to manage their insecurities and their own stories.
Right. Right.
Um, and then I had the beautiful part is I had more people who reached out to say thank you because it gave them a permission slip to begin, not necessarily for them to tell their story, but for them to understand that it's okay to tell their story,
Hmm.
because they were living in the
Yeah.
space of I can't share that. You know, if they only knew the real truth, if they knew the real me.
Yeah.
So that
Yep.
was the emails that came in and the messages that came in and the comments on the Facebook. Like the minute that you begin to own your story and you tell your story, you give permission for others
To do the same
to do the
thing.
same.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Kathleen, let me ask you this question. For you, what was the moment of knowing that it's time for you to tell your story in a deeper level?
It was while I was working with you folks at an event and got the courage to finally share the part of my story that people knew I had left a congregation that was a large, very prestigious place to be. And, I was one of 5 pastors on the staff, so big congregation by anybody's measurement. There are bigger ones today, but at that point it was one of the largest ones in the country. And to be told by a new senior pastor, you can choose,
Mm-hmm.
resign or be fired. And to me, just basically the same thing, only one has a little bit softer, outward appeal,
Right.
and at that point, inward appeal. But it's basically the same thing. And I mean, I told people I had left that congregation. Obviously, that was part of my bio that I was there for X time
Mm-hmm.
and whatever, but never said why or how that happened because I was ashamed of it.
Yes.
And I felt I would be judged. But it has been very freeing to share that.
Yes.
And I know so many other people get fired for whatever reason, a company downsizes or whatever, and it comes sometimes out of the blue.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, life just kind of falls apart when that happens.
Yes.
I mean, unless you knew it was coming and had backup plans already in place. I didn't.
Yeah.
And within my denomination as a Lutheran, the process for becoming the pastor of a congregation is not one that the pastor controls. I can't go out and hand out a resume and say, "Here I am, hire me," type thing,
Right.
knocking on doors. It's something that takes months, and like 6 months isn't unusual. A year isn't unusual.
Wow.
And to face the possibility that I'm not going to have a church or a job for a year, what do I do? I had no backup plan,
Yeah.
and felt devastated, felt like this was a great big neon sign saying failure. Um, that's what it felt like to me. And I felt even like I'd failed God.
Mm.
And then, am I still wanted by God to do this work?
Right.
And so it became a very um, big conversation within me about possibilities. And is there a possibility here?
Mhm.
And for me, it was a friend handing me a book that called Happiness is a Choice
Mhm.
from the public library. And I looked at that and I said, ain't no way in the midst of this that I have a choice to be happy.
Mhm.
No way. This is not a happy situation.
Yeah.
Um, but the book is about 6 shortcuts the author talks about. The author's Barry Neil Kaufman, give him the credit. And the fifth one is about gratitude, and which he calls the sweetest and shortest of shortcuts to happiness.
Mm.
I thought, gratitude? Be grateful in the midst of this? You got to
Right.
be nuts. It took me a couple of days, I think it was, to find one thing,
Mhm.
to think of one thing to be grateful for.
Yeah.
And, I thought, okay, that's one. And a few hours or another day went by and came up with a second one.
Mhm.
And then it was like a window had opened and then a door, and I realized the more I looked, the more I found.
Yes.
And it was that possibility of gratitude, even in the midst of a, a very unhappy and challenging situation.
Mhm.
No, I didn't suddenly win the lottery. I didn't have 6 dozen churches coming and asking me to be their pastor. None of that happened.
Mhm.
But it may it helped me to realize that even then, um, in a sense, God hadn't left me,
Mhm.
and there were still good things around, and maybe there was a future.
Yeah.
There was certainly a present I could live in a lot more peacefully,
Mhm.
and that was so important in my healing and beginning to move forward.
It's interesting that
Uh,
our stories and our journeys. As I listen to you, and I think of even my own journey, the moment that we begin to share our story is a moment that we really truly heal from our story, because these
mhm,
moments happen, these situations, these things happen,
yeah,
and we put it in a box and then we put it over here, and we
hmm,
think that we dealt with it, but all we did was just put it off to the side. and
yeah,
and then we go through and something else happens, and then we put it in a box and then we put it in over here, and before you know it,
mhm.
these boxes begin to pile up, and we
A lot of clutter.
yes, a lot of clutter.
Been
Exactly.
talking about that lately. Yeah.
Yes, a lot of clutter. And then we feel surrounded and we feel locked in and we feel like we're unable to move. But it's not
Hmm.
until we actually go through and we get that box and we take a look at that and we're like, okay, let me deal with this. And we begin to share that story, that all of a
Yeah.
sudden we heal, we get stronger. But what I didn't realize, there are all these moments and pieces of my story allow me to be greater in ministry,
Hmm.
because I have an emotion, I have a story, I have a moment that connect that can connect with somebody else.
Yeah.
Part of my story has me going into some very dark places of using crystal meth, of being promiscuous, of staying out late and hanging out, and all because I felt lost, all because I
Mm-hmm.
felt like I was trying to numb my emotions, numb how I was feeling.
Yeah.
But the truth is, I'm very grateful. For 6.5 years, I was using crystal meth, and I was very functional. I was still going to work. I still had an apartment. I still, for the most part, had some of my normal friends. But I began to push away the people that loved me the most because I was living in shame. I was
Mm-hmm.
feeling that I very disconnected from my truth. It was one day that I saw my reflection in the mirror, and I was 125 pounds, 5'10", 125 pounds, very sucked in. I was a 28
Wow.
waist. My face was like all sucked in now. Um, and I saw my reflection in the mirror, and I heard a voice that dropped me to my knees. And that voice said, "This is not who you are."
Mm.
And I remember falling down on my knees and just crying. And I knew that my relationship with God I had gotten so distant from. I realized that the moment that I truly believe that crystal meth um, is the devil, and that the devil can go through, and the minute that you put it into your intake into your body, your spirit leaves, which then leaves the shell, and the enemy is able
Uh,
to get in
hmm.
because your spirit and your soul doesn't want anything to do with the drug that you're putting in.
Hmm.
And uh, I really felt like when I was partaking in that, my spirit and my soul were almost like watching what was happening because we have freedom of
Oh.
choice. We can make a
Yes, we do.
decision. And my
Yeah.
spirit and soul were here, and they were like, we can't be a part of this. And which
Mm.
allowed the enemy, allowed the darkness to overtake me. And so when at that moment when I saw and I heard that voice, I said, God, if you're there, if you still love me, I need help. And
Mm.
I I was wailing, I was crying, I was like, I felt him in that moment. I felt like, okay, he's
Mm.
like, I am here. I remember him saying the words, I got you, which, if you ever hear
Mm.
me say, are words that I say quite often. I got you. Because that's the way I felt in the words that I heard God say as I was moving through this moment. I turned on the
Mm.
television and I began a journey of personal development and of getting stronger, of understanding that there was help. But it was the moment that I owned my truth that I was able to recognize and call forth the help that I needed.
Mm.
What I realized is that God was always there.
Yeah.
He never left me. There were
That's right.
moments and situations. I went to a party out in LA, and somebody at the party had said, "Hey, where are those guys that you came in with?" And I was like,
Mm.
"What guys?" And they were like, "There were two big dudes that were with you when you came in." I was like, "I came by myself."
Wow.
Other people saw these, and what I realized is they were my angels. They
Wow.
were my angels that had walked in with me and were protecting me the entire time.
Hmm.
God never left me. And
No.
no matter who you are or what you've been through, listen to me as somebody who has been in the pit of the darkness. God has never left you.
That's right.
Through all of your stories, through all of the fear, through all of the choices
Mm-hmm.
that you wish you had done something different, for all of the moments where you thought that you weren't enough, for all of the moments when that relationship didn't work out, for all the moments where the kids did this, for all the moments where you were trying to put all the pieces together and they didn't go together the way that you thought they were going to, God never left you.
And in spite of what anybody else said to you about you,
Yes,
God never left you.
he never left you.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that's the greatest thing, that when you learn and understand your story and you own your story, you
Mm-hmm.
own the darkest parts of your story, and you begin
Yeah.
to share that moment, you begin to share that story, that's when the healing happens. And that's when you become the most connected to yourself. And therefore, you have the greatest connection to God, because God lives
Hmm.
within you. And if you're not connected to you, then you cannot be truly connected
Right.
with God.
Yeah. And to be honest with ourselves is also being honest with God
Yes.
and realizing that, God knows it all anyway.
Hmm.
For
Exactly.
crying out loud, you know, it's it's uh, it's allowing ourselves to know that, and that, like you say, God still loves us
Hmm.
even in the midst of that.
Yeah.
And um, that's something that I struggled with when I realized I was going to be going through open heart surgery at the age of 20.
Yeah.
And I had 9 months between the time I found out about this and when the surgery was. Most people, that happens, fairly quickly after finding out, but it wasn't an emergency. I was in college, and the doctor said, well, there's no reason why you can't go through the school year and, do it in the next summer. And so I had 9 months
Mm.
to think about what that meant.
Right.
And at that point in my life, I only knew of one person who had ever had any kind of heart surgery. And this was back in the 1970s. So it's a few years ago. And heart surgery wasn't as common
Yeah.
then as it is now. And this was an individual who I actually knew. It wasn't somebody I just knew of,
Right.
somebody I actually knew and respected, and who was probably in his late 40s, maybe early 50s.
Mhm.
And he had had a heart attack, recuperated, and then was going in for bypass. And he did fine through the surgery, but died of complications shortly thereafter.
Mm.
And I knew bypass, you're working with the arteries around the heart that
Right.
feed the heart, very important,
Right.
but they had to go inside of my heart,
Mm.
not just on the outside. And to me, that was 10 times worse.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to die.
Mhm.
And so, to think for 9 months that you're dying, that or could be dying, it took me to some very dark places.
Yeah.
I had some really long conversations with God in the midst of that.
Yeah.
Um, and started to keep a journal with some of that, which was very therapeutic. But I also read the book of Psalms
Mm.
and found that every single human emotion that I experienced or that I knew about is expressed there.
Mhm.
And it gave me permission to dump it all on God,
Mhm.
the good, the bad, the ugly, everything,
Yes.
to let God have it at times. And, to be angry with God, that's okay.
Yeah.
At those times, in those dark places, to scream, to yell out for help,
Mhm.
that's okay. And we forget that sometimes. If we're trying to live this sanitized life where everything's good and where we don't share the truth, it's hard to realize that, we can share all of that stuff.
Mhm. And we need to be sharing that stuff.
We need to be sharing it
Mhm.
with God,
Mhm.
and to let other people know it's okay to share that too.
Yeah.
We don't need to dump it all on other people. In some ways, not their stuff to deal with, in many ways, but to find somebody to help us go through it sometimes, yes,
Yeah.
we need to do that.
Yep.
But to know it's okay
To
to
know it's
share the,
okay.
the pains and the problems and the anger and the frustrations and the loneliness and everything else
Yeah.
with God.
The more that it's very interesting. So I wish I had a soda bottle with me because what happened, so let's pretend that this water bottle is a soda. It could be a
Hmm.
Coke, it could be whatever.
I was hoping you'd talk about the Coke illustration.
Well, this
I was going to ask you about it.
got it. So
Yeah.
this one is, so think about this as I don't want to promote this particular brand, so we'll take that off. But
Yeah.
pretend that this is a Coke, right? And when we think of soda, there is carbonation inside
Hmm.
inside of the
Hmm.
soda, right? So when we don't tell our story, when we don't own our truth, something happens in our life, and all of a sudden, our life gets shooken up. Our spirit, our soul gets
Hmm.
shooken up. Then we go through, and there's a decision that we make, and we're living in shame, we're living in fear, or we're living in doubt, and our life gets
Hmm.
shooken up even more. Something in our life doesn't go as planned, we react in a certain way, and our life gets shooken up.
Hmm.
If I were to completely continue to shake up this soda bottle, what would be happening to this bottle?
It would be under a lot of
A
pressure
lot of
inside.
pressure, exactly. And if I were
Yeah.
to go through, while under that pressure, if I was to take off the cap and open it up, what would it do? Exactly. It would explode. It would explode all over. And our lives are the
Yep.
same way. If we
Hmm.
go through and we're
Yeah.
dealing with stuff in our life, and our lives are getting shaken up, there's all of this pressure in there. Part of
Yeah.
why we pray, part of why we tell our story, is so that we begin to release some of
It's
that
the
pressure.
pressure.
Because
Hmm.
gosh forbid somebody catch you when you're under the pressure, and they get you at the right time and the wrong day, and all of a sudden, and you let everything out on them.
Yeah.
And then you have a mess to clean up, because not only did you
Yep.
get them messy, you got the floor messy, you got the wall messy, you got all of this stuff, when God is saying, hey, I am here. In
Hmm.
prayer, you can
Yeah.
tell your story. In ministry, you tell your story. In your
Yeah.
groups, your women's group, in your youth group, in whatever the ways that God provides you the opportunity to connect and to
Right.
make a connection, tell your story, because then you're releasing some of the pressure. But here's the thing, we don't, because we're afraid of that judgment. We're afraid of, if
Yeah.
I do, then we're not going to share in the women's meeting, because there's going to be some woman that's going to be sitting in the back going, mm-hmm. She's going to be
Hmm.
taking her notes, drinking her grape juice. But the truth is, that same woman that's over there drinking her grape juice has her own stories that she's not talking about.
That's right. That's right.
The moment that
Yeah.
you tell your story is the moment that you begin to convict somebody else's heart.
Right. Right. Hmm.
My job, I understand that my job on this earth, on this lifetime, is to shine my light into other people's darkness so that they can see their own reflection, and they can begin to tap into their own light.
Right. It's it's a way of helping people see there's a path to freedom, but so many people are scared of it, and so they react with the judgment.
Mhm.
And because, like you say, there's we've all got stuff.
Yes.
We've all got stuff, and to allow ourselves the freedom, and somebody else comes along who's wonderfully free, that becomes challenging
Mhm.
to someone who is sitting there, very decidedly protecting themselves
Yes.
and thinking, you know, I can't do this.
Mhm.
What if they knew?
Yes.
I mean, even denying that there's stuff there
Right. I,
that needs to be shared.
it's funny because it's usually the ones that always say, "Oh, everything's great, everything's good," and they like pretend like they have no story, no moment.
Hmm.
And I watch, or I see them, and as I'm listening to them, my heart actually, I don't say hurts for them, but I can feel the pain and the
Yeah.
amount that they are hiding, and how much they are hiding.
Yeah.
And um, and the only way that I'm able to identify that is because I have been there, and I'm on the other side
Hmm.
of it now.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the truth of owning
Yeah.
your story, is you get to be on the other side, and you get to be a light to people. You get to show
Yeah.
them the road and the pathways, so that they're not falling off of the path and falling into bushes, or falling into tumbleweeds, or running into walls.
Yeah. Yeah. or ending up in the ditch
or any.
someplace along the way,
Hmm.
hurt and not reaching out for help. Yeah, yeah.
And I think women,
So,
because they, especially mothers, grandmothers, women that are have that nurturing feeling, they don't want to bother other people. They don't want to
mm-hmm,
show that their own pain, and they absorb everybody else's,
mm-hmm.
and then they carry that.
Yep.
You know, I never realized how much my mom was carrying of my pain. You know, she would have
Mm-hmm,
conversations with me now and be like, you know, she's like, I remember seeing you in so much pain and wishing that I could do something for you.
mm.
And I saw the level of how my pain created pain in her life.
Wow. And yeah, yeah, yeah. I think everybody can see moments of that in their family,
Hmm.
how one family member's pain has created a ripple effect of pain
Yes.
within the family. And it happens in bigger communities too.
Hmm.
You know, we may not see it as easily, but it's there. It's like, if you got pain in one part of your body, it affects the rest of it.
Hmm.
And some of it's not as severe a pain and effect, but I mean, I got a little blister on my thumb,
Hmm. Oh,
and uh, you know, I keep a bandage on it now because it seems like every time I take the bandage off and think it's healing up, I rub against something and it opens up again.
yes.
So it needs more time to heal
Yes.
and everything. But something as small as that
Mhm.
um, can have an impact. And the same thing with the little things in our lives and in our communities when we aren't careful with that. Um, we started out by talking about how words matter.
Yes.
That old saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me. That's a bunch of BS.
Exactly. Yep.
Words carry a lot of weight,
Mhm.
and how we use them and don't use them is very important.
Exactly.
And we can use them to heal so much.
Yes. Yes. The
And
power.
that's part of what telling our story does.
Yes. And especially in ministry, your story is the
Mm,
way that you connect. You know that
yeah,
your story is the way that you can get directly to the emotion of the connection with the person that you're sharing
yeah,
with, whether it be a congregation or whether it be a group or whether it be one on one.
yeah.
Your story from your heart is what's going to connect the fastest to somebody.
I mean, I look at scripture and it's all story.
Hmm.
You know, the story of God's interaction with the people of Israel, of Jesus' interaction with people, conversations, the disciples. It's all story.
Yes.
It's telling the story, but it's also how our story relates to that story and the good, the bad, and the ugly of it.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
it's all there and it's all part of the same story. So, yeah, we need to wrap this up, Matt,
yes,
but
ma'am.
it's, I always love talking with you
Um,
and sharing because there's so much beauty and depth in what you share and helping other people tell story. And that's why it's called the Story Agency, because it's all about helping those of us who work there and work with you share our story. And that's a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
So,
And Kathleen, I want to say thank you for being a very integral part of reflecting God's love.
well,
I
thank
have
you.
had the privilege of having some private conversations with Kathleen about the Bible and about being gay and different stories and the
Mm,
truth of God's love. And it is because of you that I am stronger in my relationship with God, and that I am
uh,
because of you sharing your story and you being a reflection of His love in the world.
mm.
And before we go, I want to say to all the women that are out there, to all of the women that are in leadership, all the women that are in ministry, to all the women that, whether you're in ministry in front of a congregation, you're in ministry within your own home, I want you to know that your story is powerful. Your story is
Yeah.
needed. You are more than enough, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it's actually the ugly that is your superpower into the world.
Hmm.
Your
Yep.
congregation needs you. Your ministry needs you. Your family needs you. They need to learn your story and they need to know
Right.
your truth. You deserve to be free. God did not create you to
Mm.
live in a box. God did not create you to live in a
No.
cage. And I want to say, on behalf of all of the men in your life, whether they be your husband, your husband, your your nieces, your nephews, your friends, on behalf of all of the men who have not said thank you enough, I want to say thank
Mm.
you. On behalf of all of
Yeah.
the men who have not said I'm sorry, I say I'm sorry. On behalf of all of the
Mm.
men who have not acknowledged you and the things that you do that nobody else will see, I want to say I see you. We see you. And thank you for who you are. The world is ready for you.
Thank you, Matt, for sharing that. For all of the women who are watching, listening, that's a beautiful message to share at the end. So, yes, God loves you, Matt, me,
Mhm.
and everyone
Yes,
else.
ma'am.
Even through the messes that we make, God still loves us in the midst of that. So, thank you, and God's blessings to each and every one. And come back again for another episode. So, peace be with you. You've been listening to The Tilted Halo for women of faith who know we're not perfect, yet boldly lead anyway. If today's episode encouraged you, please like it, share it, and leave a comment. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss what's next. And for more tools, resources, and encouragement, visit me at KathleenAPanning.com. Until next time, keep leading boldly with faith, gratitude, and God's grace.